His Excellency, the Governor of North Carolina, Pat McCrory. How are you, Governor McCrory?
You know, when they first said Your Excellency when I was getting sworn in as governor,
Yeah.
2 years ago now,
Oh, I know it.
my wife raised her eyebrow. What the heck is that all
can't
about?
be serious.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that's the official.
Well, you might
title.
remember I was honored because I got to introduce you like all day that day. I did the parade,
And
I
I'd
did
never
your,
known that until I was actually being sworn
They
in.
told
said,
your
Excellency,"
staff
and-
said you got to refer to him as Your Excellency.
Well, and among other things,
Yeah.
when kissing my ring. And
I
all
was
that
I was
stuff.
thinking
According to
I was
them.
thinking when I said that you'd come out and go excellent. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've been fighting. I've got the Carolina crud for the last 5 weeks, so a little cold, but I'm just getting
Coming
over
from the
it
Carolina
today.
comeback.
Part of the Carolina comeback. Yeah.
Well, it's great to see you.
But,
It's
you know,
always
we've had it since Christmas, but I've traveled all over the state, and I've traveled to Europe, and came back. And
I know.
Trying to recruit jobs in North Carolina.
we've been following your exploits through the media, and I heard your speech at the North Carolina Education Summit early this week. I want to ask you about that. Let me start off with breaking news. I mean, I don't know if you've heard this afternoon. The United States Senate passed the Keystone XL pipeline this afternoon.
That's the good news. The
Yeah.
bad news is the president's going to veto it.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. I mean, he'll definitely veto
And
it.
within that bill, hopefully, Tom was successful in getting a shared revenue resolution if North Carolina does offshore drilling. We get to share that revenue, and we can use money to deal with some of our port issues that we're dealing with right now, and dredging issues, and beach issues, and education issues. But I'm proud of Tom Tillis in his first month in office. He's doing a good job.
Well, his first bill was the offshore drilling bill. He and Senator Burr both co-sponsored a bill to have offshore drilling.
I think that might be part of the amendment of the Keystone.
Oh,
That
it was one
our
of the
goal.
amendments?
Yeah, that was our goal. I haven't checked today yet.
And I know you've campaigned on this ever since you started running for governor, saying that North Carolina should have offshore drilling. And the Obama administration came back after the bill was put in by Senator Tillis and Senator Burr, and it seems like they're moving into a direction where they're going to agree to allow some offshore drilling. But is it going to be enough? I mean, how's that going to work?
The dilemma we have is it's a good step in the right direction, but they made it so far out. I'm not sure where that's the gas is. So let's first find out where it is, and we're going to do seismic testing in as many areas as possible to find out. You know, no one's checked in 25 years if we haven't. I made a commitment when I ran for governor, both in 08 and in 12, that we're going to find out what's both inland and what's offshore, because the previous administrations didn't even want to look. Like, let's don't find out. And we're going to find out, and then if we find it's there, we're going to extract it in a safe and environmentally sound way, and then deal with our port issues and have some money to do with it.
We had this conversation this morning. As I understand it, there would be no drilling within 50 miles of the coastline.
That's according to the Obama administration.
That's
why we might be a little too far out, because we're not sure where the reservoirs are at this point in time.
Right.
That's our one concern.
Right. You think it's closer. You think it needs to be closer.
From the experts, thinks it's a little closer. Again, we don't want it right offshore, but 20, 30 miles may be an opportunity to get it. But we're going to find out. But, to have the Obama administration at least somewhat come, that's quite a step forward. And I'm chairman of the Offshore Coalition of Governors, and we've been working on this for 2 years. So it's a major step forward.
What do you?
I'll have a meeting on that in 2 weeks.
What does it mean? Can you quantify what offshore drilling would mean for North Carolina in terms of jobs?
Well, it would
and
mean
the economy?
jobs on the coast and in eastern North Carolina, and it also mean revenue if we get the shared revenue that Senator Tillis is supporting and trying to get it. So that's new money. Money doesn't drop out of the sky. You have to create new industries and new taxes or new productivity to get it, and this would be that productivity, a shared revenue, and it would cost us nothing. It wouldn't be new taxes, which is the typical way government gets new revenue. It would be like Alaska gets.
Right.
And of course, Obama's trying to kill that too. The president's trying to kill that too. So.
Governor Pat McCrory.
But this is progress. This is progress.
Yeah, live in the studio with us. You mentioned Morehead City a couple of times. That might be topic A down here in the last few weeks. When we did our Live at the Legislature show, we missed you this time because you were in Europe recruiting, which I want to ask you about. But Ray McKeithen from the Potash Corp Aurora announced that day that the problems at the Morehead City port are costing Potash $2 million a month. And, of course, potash is just one employer, but one of our larger employers in eastern North Carolina. What do you know about that and what's being done?
I know a lot about it. It's a very tough situation. Mother Nature is moving the sands in areas that we've never had before. And we do not know the cause of it at this point in time, but we're down to the latest report I got 2 or 3 days ago, down to 25 feet depth in certain areas of Morehead City Port, when the max I think was 50. And it's getting to a point in time where it's going to hurt the industry. My DOT, my Diener people, or Tony might even be down there today, Secretary Tata. And we're looking at dredging contracts. We're working with the Army Corps of Engineers. I've been on conference phone calls with Senator Burr for the past 2 weeks. It is a very tough situation. It's all of a sudden, everyone goes, Governor, snap your fingers and do it. But even if we dredge and we get the money to dredge, we don't know if it'll come right back or not, and that's what we're doing evaluation on at this point in time. But
whose responsibility isn't it generally the Army Corps of Engineers'
That's
responsibility? So what role does the state have anyway?
trying to influence them, and we might have to be forced because it's so important to us to match any money. The bids are very, very high right now. It's at the end of the bidding season, so the supply and demand of dredgers, dredging companies, they can ask for anything they want. And again, the other issue is, will it work? It's tough.
And of course,
and again, I'm going to, Mother Nature does things we're having the same thing, Oregon Inlet and other areas right now. Where every week we look at the Oregon Inlet and we have actually pictures of where the sand is moving, and it's constantly moving based upon the storms.
We've had this problem at Oregon Inlet as long as I can remember, but this is the first time we've heard of this in Morehead City.
This is a brand new. It's been gradually happening during the past 3 to 5 months.
Yeah,
and the rate is getting greater, and we don't know if it's going to stop. By the way, there could be a type of storm. In fact, with the storms that came last week, we're checking to see was there any movement. So, but right now, the companies, 2 major companies we're dealing with there right now. The company you mentioned, plus Alcoa, steel company.
Nucor.
Yeah. They're going to have to lighten their loads of the ship to get it out. And
that's what's happening
we
with
want to
potash.
sell Morehead City Port for other things. This makes it difficult.
Yeah, because
we're going to find out. We're working on we got to look for a short-term and a long-term solution.
When you announced your 25-year transportation plan a couple of months ago, you talked a lot about the ports.
Absolutely.
And so this is not great timing for that, is it?
Not good timing for it. Of course, the Wilmington Port, we've got doing pretty good there. We're getting refrigeration there. We need refrigeration at the Morehead ports, and Tony Tate is doing a great job looking at future infrastructure needs for those ports. And that's important, especially for eastern North Carolina.
Governor Pat McCrory live in the studio with us this afternoon. Tom and Sadie are off. They missed the opportunity to have the governor, so I took advantage, and I appreciate your
Thanks a lot.
I appreciate your willingness to be in here live with us today. The unemployment rate came out on Friday, and it was some of the best news we've had in a long time. I believe it's down to 5.4.
Hey, you didn't see it on the headlines. It's amazing. The Raleigh News and Observer.
Was that the number, 5.4%?
5.5%.
And I believe when you took office, it was up in the mid-8s, wasn't it?
Well, it was 9.4, but then adjusted later on to 8.8, 8.9. Yeah. So we've had, I think, the second largest drop in unemployment in the last 2 years of any state in the nation, next to Florida. And this past month, we had the second largest drop in unemployment just in the past month. And, we've got a lot of activity going on right now and a lot of job growth of existing companies. And we're getting a lot of interest for new companies. But the main thing I'm going to be, I've got my State of the State next week, and I'm going to be asking to ensure that we have a North Carolina strategic plan when I recruit and retain and grow existing businesses. And right now I don't. I need the legislature is going to have to pass some legislation.
You took a surprise and quick trip to Europe that ended up in the media. No one has. I don't know if anybody's asked you this, or if you've been willing to say what's going on. What was that all about?
Just recruiting jobs.
You can't say where.
No.
Can't say what.
No.
That's good stuff.
Well,
good stuff.
I will say this: the competition's tough.
Yeah.
Other governors were right behind me and right in front of me.
I heard you tell that story earlier this week.
Maybe even other nations. I mean, they're right there, and they've got clear and concise packages that they're offering potential businesses to come to their states, and I need that, and I'm going to be asking for a clear plan. What if it's nothing? Fine, let me say it. But right now, I need a clear and concise plan, and we're going to be introducing a plan hopefully in the very near future, which we call NC Competes, because the competition is very tough.
The long session began yesterday in the legislature, and I would assume that this is at the top of your list in terms of what you want them to do.
I've got it literally. I'm hoping it can be done in weeks.
Yeah.
In literally a few weeks.
The whole incentives
Because I'm
thing,
working with a lot of companies right now.
people, the whole incentives plan is very controversial. There's no doubt about it. There's been a lot of debate about it. Should North Carolina be in the business of picking winners and losers with tax money and that kind of thing? But at this point in the game, unless Congress steps in and stops it, that's the way it's going to be done, right? I mean, we either compete or we don't compete with the other states that are going to go out there and throw incentive monies at these companies.
And it's mainly southeastern Republican states that are doing it, and that's the marketplace right now. Texas can do it; they have the money. Louisiana, Georgia, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee—they're my toughest competition for jobs. And when I'm going overseas or I'm going to California or New York, it's our neighboring states that are toughest because they're very similar with the quality of life and tax structure. We're all getting pretty equal in tax structure now that we've done tax reform. But these companies, sadly, are in the driver's seat, and they're looking at the bottom line. And that's just one thing. And by the way, I will never try to outbid another state. I can't play the game of Texas, but I need to at least be in the major leagues,
Right.
Because North Carolina is the 9th largest state in the United States of America now. I don't think most North Carolinians realize that.
Yeah.
We just passed Michigan.
Overtook Michigan this year, right? Yeah.
9th largest. And we've got some areas, especially rural areas, that are still hurting. And if I can get major manufacturing and spin-off industry like Spartanburg did in South Carolina, it can be a game changer in certain regions, including this region, including the Triad region, which aren't moving as quick in the economy as, say, Wilmington, Charlotte, Raleigh, Asheville are the areas that are going the quickest.
Are you optimistic? I know you've had conversations with the new Speaker of the House, Tim Moore, about this. I know you've constantly been in contact with folks in the Senate and the House. What are you hearing? Do they get it? Do you feel
I think
like
they do. I think they get it, and we've let them know of what's in play in what areas of the state. And it impacts about everybody on a lot of things that we have in play. And even today, we're in ongoing dialogue with leadership and members about, we just I need a decision. And they didn't get that decision made in the last legislative session. So I've been literally for 3 months with nothing. But kind of telling people, but the legislature is coming back in town, and that's not a very convincing argument. My secretary, John Scavara, has got to have a plan and a strategy, and we're recommending a plan and a strategy, really focusing on manufacturing, focusing on innovation, focusing on entrepreneurship, and those are our 3 major focus areas.
What are your other goals for the long session of the legislature, which I mentioned started yesterday?
Yeah, I'll be giving the state of the state Wednesday. I think it was just a bill was passed yesterday, unanimous, by the way. First, unanimous, Republicans and Democrats.
A bill to allow you to give the speech?
Yeah. No debate.
Oh, they want to hear what you got to say.
They want to hear. No, I'm going to be I'm going to be talking about transportation and following through on some commitments that I've made and increasing the amount of revenue so I can speed up some road projects, including in the east and connecting to Virginia and the
Tidewater.
Yeah, Tidewater area and going all the way up to Norfolk and so forth. That is still an important port for many of our industries, whether we like it or not. That's an important connection for industry. So I'm going to be talking a lot about education, committing on our $35,000 starting salary for teachers. We're at 33. We've gone from 30 to 33. We made a commitment to do 35. And I'm also going to be talking about testing and trying to eliminate some tests and a few other things in education. And I enjoyed talking to the Board of Governors the other day about making it easier for people who have the skills to be a teacher, but they have to sit through a year and a half of classes. I gave the example of my education advisor, a Harvard master's degree, and he taught for a year and a half in the Bronx, and he had to take a year and a half of classes in North Carolina, teach in North Carolina. I mean, that's crazy. And by the way, on the Board of Governors, one of the people at the meeting I talked to you about yesterday, she came up to me, and I might use this in my speech, where at some of our universities, they have required swimming classes. Well, if a Navy SEAL wants to go to Carolina or something, are we going to require the Navy SEAL to take swimming?
The answer right now is yes.
Yes, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We're requiring courses where you can't just say, I already know how to do that. Let's not
Yeah.
waste money. These are not cheap classes.
Yeah.
These are subsidized by the taxpayers.
Yeah. You know, we got so many education issues, but again, we talked about this a lot this week on my morning show. For folks who don't know,
Carolina, you have to take swimming, don't you?
yeah, oh yeah, everywhere. You have to pass that swimming course before you get your degree in North Carolina. You're the governor. Can't you do away with that?
And if you
you'd
can
make a
already-
lot of people that can't swim
And
happy.
can you
I know
test
that.
out of it? Can you test out
I
of it?
think that is what you do. Yeah, because I remember I tested out. I was a lifeguard for years.
So a guy can't say, I'm a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Don't make me.
They're going to say, "Prove it. Get down there in the water and see
It's
we can
just
see if you
crazy.
can
It's
float."
just crazy.
The biggest news out of that summit on Tuesday in Cary at the SAS Institute that you were the keynote speaker, the last speaker of the day.
The last speaker of the day is very tough. by
Well,
the
no,
way.
you did a great job, and I tell you, it was a great group. I said this on the air yesterday morning. You had legislators there. You had administrators from the university system. You had the board of governors. You had community college people, and everybody stayed. And the information that was given was just absolutely mind-numbing in some cases. You know, I don't think we realize, most people don't realize what a crisis we have. I know recently, from being on the Board of Governors, I know that some of our universities, including East Carolina, which is traditionally, started as a teacher college, has recently been allocating funds away from the Department of Education because they need the money in other areas because students aren't going into teaching. So over the last 5 years, there's been a 26% drop in the number of students that go into teaching, and that is a crisis.
That's a crisis, especially when it comes to math and science.
Yeah.
And we've got to, that's why I say the pay ought to be different for math and science, based upon the market. We ought to pay based upon performance. We ought to pay based upon their leadership ability in the school itself. And as I said in my speech to the group, I said, you know, when you go to a high school, everyone knows who the good teachers are.
That's right.
The students know, the principals know, the parents know. They know who the easy teachers are, and they know who the hard teachers are, and they know who the good teachers are. And for whatever reason, we have a tough time judging that. And we've got to reward those good teachers so they stick around and are role models for other teachers. And that's my goal. That changes the whole concept of how we've
Yeah.
been doing things in government. By the way, I'm proud to announce that we're going to be announcing the first, we're going to be implementing this later on this year, the first performance management system for state government employees, where we'll actually be judging their productivity and giving them a measurement consistent across state government. And hopefully in the future, we'll determine their pay based upon that, as opposed to across the board pay. And but we treat everyone the same regardless of productivity, and that doesn't work. That doesn't work. It doesn't create innovation, and it doesn't create efficiency and better customer service.
But you know, the other point with the school teacher salaries package that you proposed and got passed last year,
Most of it.
along with the legislature, and again, you're right, most of it. But there's been a lot of, if there's been more,
I didn't get the performance part in.
yes, but the consternation has come from teachers who've been in the system longer,
Yeah.
and they're still saying, "Well, you didn't do enough for us." But when you look at the fact that you've got these kids, and you know, one of the consultants there made the point that, you know, it's not the kids. The kids, when they're 17, 18 years old, they've been motivated to teach. They've had a teacher that makes them want to go into teaching. Yeah. And then the parents say to them, you know what, you should not go into teaching.
Well, a lot of it's the publicity that's going on by the union groups who are then discouraging teaching by trying to promote their message that everything's so bad.
Yeah.
And then they discourage any new changes or reform to teaching. And that's why I'm looking at testing right now. And I think teachers have a very legitimate gripe right now where they're testing more than they are teaching. And some of the tests are absolutely ridiculous. They test at the end of the year of a student. They don't get the results back for a month or two. Well, then they change teachers, and it's too late once you just get it at the end. You can't make corrections to help the student then, or to help the teacher. And it's just, we're wasting all this money and effort. And I can see, I empathize with the teachers who are discouraged. I gave that story about student teaching in college.
Yeah, great. Tell that story. It's a great story.
Well, I was teaching at North Rowan High School trying to get my teaching degree.
People may not realize you started as a teacher. You were going to be a teacher.
I was going to be a teacher. I got my teaching degree at Catawba College, and as part of that requirement, you have to take the National Teacher Exam, which I passed, I might add. And I know that shocks you. But,
No, nothing would shock me.
Did pretty good on that test. And then also I did student teaching, and I thought I had 50 minutes of material ready to go for that history class, ninth graders, and I ran out of material after 10 minutes, and it was the longest 40 minutes of my life, with my teacher taking notes going, this guy's a loser, you know, and the students sitting here going, what's this guy done? It's a lot harder.
You had it all ready to go.
I was going to
tear
it up.
You had the best 10 minutes of material possible.
And I thought it was at least an hour or 2 hours, and that was gone.
All right, let me throw this at you. This is an election year coming up next year. It's going to be a presidential race, and it looks like North Carolina is going to have the presidential primary. I guess they're not going to change it. I haven't heard that they're going to change it. We're talking about having that in mid-February, so about this time next year, we're going to be getting ready to have a presidential primary, and we're going to start seeing these candidates for president start filtering to North Carolina any day now. So how does that change? And
it completely changes the dynamics. And as I learned running both 08 and 012, who runs for president has an impact on my election.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got 30 or 40 people running for president right now, it feels like, and I have no idea who's going to win. And a lot of them have become good friends. You know, I've had Chris Christie call me, Jeb Bush call me, Scott Walker leave a message. They know North Carolina's in play, and they're all friends.
I was going to say, your endorsement of one of those candidates probably will be big for them.
We're going to be dependent upon each other, and they also, you know, I won by 11 points last time, and Romney won by 1. But you know, who knows? I'd never heard of Barack Obama when I announced for governor in 08. And, you know, he's the main reason we lost in 08. So you never know what dynamics will occur between now and 16. But it's going to happen quickly. And it's going to be very interesting dynamics starting literally within months now. These guys have got to get going, and we'll see what happens.
You're not going to endorse anybody?
You know, I probably will not. I have a bias toward governors, though, because I think the executive leadership helps.
Yeah.
And I don't think if your only service has been in Congress, it's I've just found that executive leadership helps in crisis a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people made a lot more money on their taxes this year, and 2% less paying taxes on their paychecks.
Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't going to get the returns they had because they don't realize they made more money and their deductions don't mean as much. So people are going to go, I'm not getting as much return this year. It was because of tax reform, but they don't understand that they had more net money in their paycheck during the year, during the last 12 months because of the tax reform. So it's going to be kind of interesting. And that impacts our revenue stream coming up, too, on how many people need refunds and how many people don't get refunds, because I'm looking at that revenue stream every day right now because that impacts what budget I set for next year.
Governor, it's an honor.
It's an honor. Thank you, Henry.
It's been an honor.
It's great being back in Greenville.
I've enjoyed
my
this.
good friend.
Thank you for coming back to Eastern North Carolina. Thank you for coming in the studio today.
It's great being back, and
Yeah.
look forward to my visit.
Yeah.
And we'll be back often.